Call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the weekly meeting of the Rotary Club of Jonesboro. Four-time reigning club of the year, and hopefully Thursday or actually Friday we'll know whether it's going to be five. Got an inspirational moment. Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. Desmond Tutu. Ken Hendrix, okay, you're going to come introduce this. Okay, thank you.
I want to thank everyone for having us here today and for inviting our son to give the talk. I think it's a good time of the year to be thinking about our veterans and those who did give all. It's coming up very soon. And I want to thank Jill for asking me to do this introduction. And when she asked me, I thought this will probably be the easiest introduction I've ever done in my life. I got to thinking about it all week. It's really going to be the hardest I've ever done in my whole life. How do you tell about a 26-year military career without sounding like a bragging parent, which I am. My wife and I are very proud of what he's accomplished. In October of 1990, our son went in the Army as a private E1 rifleman in the 7th Infantry Division. Over his 26-year career that ended in October 2016, he progressed to the rank of Brigade Command Sergeant Major, and that rank encompasses less than 1% of the entire enlisted corps. It's quite an accomplishment. Along the way, he did 6 deployments, 3 in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. He was awarded, and I'm not going to read you all his awards because we don't want to be here that long. You want to hear his program. His major awards included the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star with 4 oak leaf clusters, Meritorious Service Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters, Army Commendation Medal with a Valor device, Army Commendation with 4 oak leaf clusters. Those are all major awards. The other unit awards and the other awards are too numerous to mention. We'd be here too long. But some of the things he also did along the way, he worked real hard and was tested and was awarded the Expert Infantryman's Badge. He learned that through hard work and dedication. The Combat Infantryman's Badge, he earned it the hard way. The Air Assault Badge, Master Parachutist Badge, Jungle Expert Badge, and the Order of St. Maurice. So this young man has had quite a career. I think he will enlighten you guys a little bit about some of the issues that our soldiers go through. Many deployments. These young men have been through 6, 7 deployments. I think some of our other family members that in the group at S&H Systems have also done that. We hire veterans is our first choice. Over 20% of our employees are veterans. So without any more, I'd like to introduce my son, Command Sergeant Major, retired, Kenneth Hendrix.
How are you guys doing? Distinguished guests, family and friends of the Jonesboro Rotary Club, thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. First, I would like to thank my family for being here. I'm often embarrassed when I'm asked to come and speak at events like this because I don't like to talk about myself very often. The word hero is often used, and I don't believe myself to be a hero, but I believe that I was a leader of heroes. On my 4th deployment, I served as the first sergeant of an infantry company that deployed to Baghdad, Iraq at the beginning of what most people know as the Surge, which ended up lasting 16 months in the most dangerous district in Baghdad. By the time we redeployed home, Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 26th Infantry, 1st Infantry Division, was the most decorated and hardest hit unit since the Vietnam War. A soldier had won the Medal of Honor, 4 soldiers were awarded a Silver Star, and I had 122 soldiers that received Purple Hearts for wounds that were received in actions against enemy forces. A book was written about my company by a USA Today reporter named Kelly Kennedy. She spent several weeks with my unit when we received and took heavy casualties. She was affected by our events that she felt compelled to tell our story. It's called They Fought for Each Other. That's not something you like to brag about, but something you reflect on as a leader. Did I do enough? Could I have done something different? Would someone have done a better job than me and saved some of those young men? I ask myself those questions every day. In the end, I believe I was the right leader at the right time and did the very best I could under those circumstances. That doesn't mean the thoughts go away. It just means that I've learned to live with the decisions I made and those results in a time of war. The toughest thing about leadership is making decisions without knowing what those end results might be. The Army builds and trains the greatest leaders who inspire others to do things most people only see in the movies or read about in books. Managers make decisions on a daily basis, but those decisions don't cost young men their lives. Leaders make decisions based off facts and circumstances at the time, and then we make changes as needed because, as we know, war is a fluid environment. We then have to live with those decisions, right or wrong. We have to learn from our mistakes in order to prevent them from ever happening again. I come from a long line of military veterans, as my father talked about. My great uncles both served in World War II and were both killed in action. I have family members who served in Korea, and my father, who served in Vietnam, was shot down, evaded capture, and was awarded Purple Heart for his wounds that he received in combat. And finally, a cousin who served alongside me in Afghanistan and Iraq. The lessons I learned from these veterans proved valuable in my future as a military leader. One lesson that I was not prepared for was how to cope with the stress, the failures, and the loss of the ones that I called my brothers. This leads to the most important part of my message today. Today's veterans have dealt with the nation's longest period of conflict in our history, sustained combat operations, and an influx of patient care into the government system known as the Veterans Administration. A Defense Department study of combat troops returning from Iraq and Afghanistan have found that 1 in 6 soldiers and Marines acknowledge symptoms of severe depression and PTSD. And 6 in 10 of those same veterans were unlikely to seek help out of their fears that their commanders and fellow troops would treat them differently. Soldiers and Marines that come home from combat do not seek help for medical services because they believe it will affect their ability to get promoted. It affects their careers and makes them less of a soldier, sailor, Marine, or airman. The stigma of PTSD has been around since first diagnosed in 1980. You are perceived as weak, broken, or drained on the unit. We as a country and a society must get away from that stereotype and encourage our future veterans to seek help so they continue to be productive members of our society and not just a number. 22 veterans a day commit suicide because they believe it is their only solution to stop that pain. I'm a believer in the treatment and overcoming or learning to live with PTSD. After 6 deployments overseas and losing 52 soldiers under my command and suffering injuries from IEDs, RPGs, and hand grenades, I learned treatment sooner rather than later makes a difference. I was one that thought I would be viewed as weak and possibly lose my command. My wife and family had enough of the nightmares, the sleepless nights, and the outbursts of anger and gave me an ultimatum: seek help or lose everything. And that is what I did, and it's the best decision I ever made. I'm not cured, I'm not perfect, but I've learned how to survive and cope with the horrors that I see in my mind every single day. My mission here today as a veteran is to let you, the business professionals, owners of small businesses, and the leaders of this community Executives of corporations know that veterans are an invaluable resource and if given the chance, can make a difference in your organization. The 18-year-old kids that I led every day made life and death decisions under stress, far away from home, with little to no experience. They showed up on time, they dedicated themselves to our mission, and they will work until the job is done. The best treatment for a young soldier coming home, as they know service is something that they just want to devote themselves to. I want your organizations to be that devotion. I want you to compare a young student just graduating from college with a BA in general studies to a 22-year-old veteran that has lived a life of responsibility, honor, integrity, and loyalty. There are some things that you just can't teach in a classroom. I retired after serving my country for 26 years. All I wanted in life was to find something to focus my passion on. Pay didn't matter. Benefits didn't matter. The job field didn't matter. I just wanted to learn, be successful, and be part of a team. We, the veterans, are out there in the thousands. Just ask us our story and we will tell you. Once again, thank you for the honor to address this distinguished audience. Please remember the people who paid the ultimate sacrifice this Memorial Day. God bless our veterans. God bless the United States Army, and God bless America. I'd like to now open it up to the audience for any questions that you may have, and thank you for letting me speak.
So if you're taking notes, my name is Will Branch. I don't know if we're still doing that this week or not. But anyway, I don't really have any questions. Just for myself and probably for the group, just wanted to say thank you. And if you're a veteran and you're here today, I just wanted to say thank you. Simply thank you for all that you've done and all that you do. Thank you.
So that headstone is in Washington, D.C. This is my soldier that won the Medal of Honor. His name is Ross Andrew McGinnis. He was the youngest soldier in my company. He had just turned 18 years old on June 6th. And on December the 9th, he placed himself on top of a hand grenade to save his entire vehicle crew at 18 years old. Was subsequently awarded the Medal of Honor. Those two gentlemen right there is Robert Lambeth and Josh Wright. That was my vehicle crew. So this is in the initial invasion of Baghdad. As you can see, I'm holding up stacks of Iraqi money, which it looks really cool, but it was absolutely worthless. That is Operation Iraqi Freedom 4. And that was when I was a platoon sergeant, very young. That was my platoon that I served with in Tikrit, Iraq, which was when we captured Saddam Hussein. And these are some of the pictures of the forward operating base that I was in the surge in Adhamiya, Iraq. So Adhamiya, Iraq is the enclave of Baghdad, and it was what most people would call the Beverly Hills as it relates to Los Angeles. That was the Beverly Hills of Baghdad before the invasion. But it ended up being a stronghold for Sunni and Al-Qaeda insurgents during the surge. My company was the only company in that entire enclave during that entire 16 months. So all of our medical care, everything that we did, the food, everything that we had was what we provided right there on that location. So this is how most Iraqis have their food. They have open air markets, and they literally slaughter the animals and hang them right there. And when you come by, you tell them what you want, you pay for it, and they'll cut it right off the animal for you, hanging out in about 120-degree heat. More pictures during the initial invasion of Iraq. That's where we kind of took a break. You can tell our faces are covered in dirt and soot from a movement all the way from Kuwait up into Iraq. And of course, that's a picture of my younger self and my wife as I was leaving to deploy to Afghanistan. So this is a picture of my headquarters platoon on the deployment that I told you about. And these are all the guys that I lived slept, and ate with every single day. And as you can see, most of these gentlemen are what I would have at the time called kids, right? 18 to 20 years old. Almost every single one of those people were under the age of 20, except myself and my company commander. Just more pictures of me and my soldiers, right? Just the environment we lived in. But as you can tell, it's amazing the stuff that you go through on a daily basis. But if you see in almost all these pictures, we're all smiling. And that's why it's called We Fought for Each Other, right? I know people don't want to hear it, but we weren't fighting for anything except each other, right? That's all that mattered to us was each other. And that's what we were fighting for, is the guys that we hung out with and we lived with every single day. These are pictures, or at least that's a picture of me in Afghanistan. And I was actually advising the sergeant major of all armed forces in Afghanistan right there. And those are some of my NCOs that were with me. And that picture of a really young me with no hair, I was actually serving chow out of plastic buckets to my soldiers on Christmas Day. Picture of me in Iraq, picture of me in Afghanistan, different uniforms. And as you can see again, right, it's jovial at times because you can't do anything but smile, right? Some of the things that you have to deal with and the horrors that you deal with on a daily basis, you just do everything you can to block them out of your mind and just try and support each other and be funny. So that kid right there was 18. That other kid was 19, Cardenas and Sturch. And they were basically my headquarters guys. They literally bothered me like my children every single day. They actually left a card on my bunk for Mother's Day to wish me a happy Mother's Day, because they said the company commander was their father and I was their mother because I took care of them. So that's the kind of jocularity I had to deal with on a daily basis. More pictures. So that was at the beginning of our deployment when we first started. I set up computers so guys could email home to their loved ones. I ended up making that wall our memorial wall as soldiers were killed in action. And before we left, that entire wall was full of pictures. And that is years later, I went back and my company commander and I spent time together at West Point, New York. And that is the first time that we had seen each other since we came back from that deployment. And we still keep in touch with each other today. And there's Ross Andrew McGinnis. And the other soldier beside him, his name is Sergeant Mock. He was awarded a Silver Star. 2 Silver Stars, actually, one in OIF-2 and then one in OIF-6. And he was subsequently killed by an armor-defeating device a couple of months after that picture was taken. That is my retirement ceremony. And those are the soldiers that came back to see me when I retired out of the military. That guy that is in the middle, his name is Terry. I pulled that young man out of a burning vehicle, and he sustained third-degree burns over 90% of his body and spent over 2 years in the burn unit in San Antonio, and he's still alive, and he's married and has 2 children today. And the rest of those soldiers are the friends that came back to see me for my retirement ceremony. That's the day I retired with my wife. As you can see, that is a huge smile. And then my wife and I with a picture beside us after I was retired, and she was smiling. And that are all the pictures.
What kind of barriers do you think there are that prevent employers from hiring more veterans?
I think the barriers are the education on the abilities that the Department of Defense and the Veterans Administration can provide to you as employers. At SNH, we recently just had visits for the Veterans Administration to help us hire veterans. And there are a lot of benefits that are advantageous to your companies if you do hire veterans. There are jobs programs where the Department of Defense will cover 50% of their pay for 4 to 6 months as a job internship program. They will also provide them with a basic allowance for housing to subsidize their pay for 2 years while they're here. You can qualify for on-the-job training, and they can be provided money through the Montgomery GI Bill, the post 9/11 GI Bill, while they're working for your organization using on-the-job training. And at the end of that 6-month internship, if they believe it doesn't work out with your company, or you don't believe they're working out for your company, it is a amicable part ways, and you didn't lose anything. And they can move on and attempt to find another job. But there are tons of organizations out there, if you do your research and become educated through the Veterans Administration, to provide you with veterans from retired commanders that went to the Naval Academy, West Point, the Air Force Academy, down to retired command sergeant majors like myself, even down to privates through sergeants that only served 3 to 4 years, that have now went to school and have increased their level of education, or went to vocational schools and learned a vocation and are literally waiting on somebody to find them. So education and knowledge is the biggest barrier. Thanks, Rachel.
I appreciate your service and your family's service. When you first started opening up about PTSD, I just think it showed great leadership, continued leadership for you. What was the reaction that you had from other soldiers and veterans when you started talking about PTSD?
So it was very positive from soldiers, of course, to see someone that led them by example, that we were seeking treatment, or I was seeking treatment, gave them the ability to seek it out themselves. Of course, there was always going to be the negative detractors, right? Because it's all about the mission and it's all about the number of people in your unit. So if some people do seek help and then they are made non-deployable because they do have mental issues, I looked at that as a positive, because if I had taken those soldiers with me on another deployment later, it was just going to cause issues for me down the road. The Army has changed a lot in the last 5 to 6 years since I've retired. The Sergeant Major of the Army, the Force Com Sergeant Major, who were all friends of mine that all went through the Sergeant Major's Academy with me, all feel the same way I do. And the Army has done a tremendous job, along with all the services, to encourage people on active duty and people that have gotten out to seek that help. So I myself started a couple of Facebook pages when I got out, and one for my individual company of all those men that you saw in those pictures, and then one at a larger unit level from the battalion that I went with, to encourage people to reach out. And they can communicate with us on that closed Facebook site, which we only accept people who are within the unit. I have the entire access roster for our entire 1,200 man unit. It's not for spouses, it's not for parents, it's not for loved ones, it's for them. We all have a telephone access roster, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they can call us. I had a soldier that called me 5 years ago, was in some serious trouble. His VA pay had stopped. He didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go to seek help, reached out to me, and I bought that young man a bus ticket, and he traveled from Arizona to Columbia, South Carolina. And I moved him into my house with me, and he lived with me for almost a year. My wife helped him get a house. We got him to the VA. We got him into mental health treatment. We got him work. He went to school. He has now just graduated from college, and he is married, and he is doing great. If I hadn't helped that young man, he would have killed himself. So that's what we do as leaders. I will be responsible for those young men for the rest of my life. Any other questions? All right. Once again, thank you for letting me speak today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kenneth. It's a good program. And I want to echo Will's comments. We do appreciate your service and your family's service, and appreciate the service of, I know we have other veterans in the room. So appreciate y'all's service as well. Thought for the day: the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. Ronald Bragg. We'll go ahead and adjourn.